host, Michelle Marchant Johnson. I'm so glad that you're here because this event is designed to help you love your life, love yourself, and find real love. And I have with me here today, as you can see, a handsome and amazing guest. That is my friend, Troy Spry. Welcome, Troy.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me back.
Oh, so happy to have you back. I always love talking with you and sharing your wisdom and really love what you teach. And I know the ladies are happy to have you back too. So welcome.
I'm here. I'm here. Let's have a great conversation.
We are going to have a great conversation and we are going to talk about 7 things masculine men love about feminine women. So hit the road, hit it running. What's number 1?
Oh man. So number one, the number one thing is receiving with grace, right? So if you are a feminine woman, you understand how to receive with grace. That means you don't fight me on everything that I present to you. Sometimes you can just listen and you can receive, right? If I want to buy you a gift, you can say thank you and be appreciative of it without, acting like you're undeserving. Or, you can just learn how to sit back in your femininity and accept what this man is trying to give you. You don't always have these defenses up. So receiving with grace is extremely important.
Yeah, I love this one. Sometimes I call it graciously receiving with grace. Why do you think this is so powerful for a man when a woman receives with grace?
Yeah, I think it's powerful because men like to feel needed and wanted and desired. They like to feel like the things that they do for a woman are just something she's looking forward to, something she wants to take in, something that she is appreciative of. So I think that's why it's such a powerful thing for a feminine woman.
Yeah. Yeah, I often will tell the women that I work with to wherever possible, say yes, as long as it's not against your morals or your values or, illegal, whatever. If a man is offering something, wherever possible, say yes. Graciously receive with grace. Okay, number 1, love it. What's number 2?
So number 2 is look good and smell good. And so essentially what that
I think I smell good. I showered.
That's good. But what it comes back down to is that self-care piece, right? So being able to take care of yourself, looking, bright and vibrant and feeling bright and vibrant. What men know is that the better a woman feels about herself, the easier it is for them in their interactions, because confident women that take care of themselves and they look good, they smell good, they attract other confident men, okay? So learn how to look good, smell good, and take care of yourself. That means keeping your nails done, keeping your hair done, keeping your toes done, looking like you are presenting yourself to the world, because men like a woman that presents themselves well to the world.
Yeah. And I think this is an important one. And I want to just kind of go a little bit deeper with this, because I know a lot of the women in our audience are maybe a little bit older, 40s, 50s, 60s. And, you may not feel quite like what you did when you were in your 20s or even 30s or whatever. But I think a woman at any age who is taking really good care of herself, first of all, it conveys a message to a man that says, I'm worth taking care of. I matter. And that sends a message that, you would matter. You would be with a man who also believed you matter. And I also believe that men can be attracted to women at any age. If you're in that place where you're taking care of yourself, even as we age, there's still a lot we can do to look good.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've seen women of a certain age who they're just so adamant about taking care of themselves that they attract a lot of younger men. Because it also says something about how you feel about yourself as well. So Absolutely. All that's important. That self-care is extremely important.
Absolutely. And smelling good kind of seems like the obvious one, right?
You would think, but some, do you have a signature scent? And do you mix those scents up? Right? Or do you just kind of smell like your environment? Like those things matter. Like men love when a woman walks past and her scent lingers. It's like, who is that in the room?
Right.
That's an extremely attractive thing.
Yeah. So there's you kind of have to have a light touch with that, so it's not overwhelming. But yeah, leaving a nice scent can be a lovely thing. Okay, yes. Good. So that's number 2, right? Look good and smell good. We combined those 2. What's number 3?
Number 3 is being sensual and flirtatious. And I think you start thinking about sensuality and flirtatiousness. It's kind of like that when you were that high school girl who flirted with the guy on the basketball team, all right? You trying to get their attention. Being flirtatious and sensual is extremely attractive to a man because it makes a man feel like you desire him, right? That you like him, that you're into him. So it's like I'm flirting with him to gain his attention. So being sensual and flirtatious is extremely attractive and extremely feminine too. So what a lot of women I've learned is because of life, they walk around with guards up, right? And so it takes so much to get to that side of them, to the flirtatious side of them. It's like they lead with this posture of, you need to prove something to me before I can release to you that I'm flirtatious and nice and fun to be around, right? And to me, it should be done the opposite way around, right? Is lead with that flirtatiousness, that sensuality, not sexuality, sensuality, right? And flirtatiousness, and that's light, it's fun. It makes you easy to be around. I think that's important.
Yeah. So when you're talking about sensuality in this context, it feels to me a little like this kind of sensuality is being aware of your surroundings, being in the moment, appreciating, acknowledging who's around you. And that invites more interaction, which potentially gives you the opportunity for that flirtatiousness and that fun energy. And so if women are listening to this, Troy, and this doesn't necessarily come naturally to them, particularly in the area of flirting, what's an example of ways that a woman might have flirted with you in the past, or an example of a way that a woman might be able to flirt that conveys interest without like completely going over the top? You like, let's make it tangible if we can for the women listening.
Yeah. So to me, the easiest way is an extended stare. An extended stare with a smile. Those are flirtatious things. It makes the man, it's that connection you get from across the room. And instead of looking down at your phone or looking away because you feel awkward, hold the stare. Let's see who looks away first. That shows some interest. Another easy key way to flirt is slight touches, right? So if he's talking to you, you're close, it's a slight touch of the hand, it's a slight touch of the shoulder, or whatever it might be. But those slight touches matter. And if you're online, there's ways to flirt online as well, right? So it's maybe you send the wink emoji, things like that. They matter because men want to feel like you are into them just as much as they are into you. And you know what it does? It's inviting, right? It's inviting. It tells the man that my odds of being turned down or rejected in a malicious way are lower because he's actually flirting with me. Now, you don't have to like him, but it does tell you something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think compliments can be a way of flirting. I can remember I was just having this flashback to years ago when I was single, and there was this man that I would see sometimes at different parties and events and things like that. He was very tall, and he also just kind of had a presence about him. It was kind of like the way he carried himself. And so I told him one day, I just said, you just have this way of carrying yourself and you have this presence that when you walk in the room, people are really going to notice you. And so I kind of have a little nickname for you. I want to call you the president. So whenever I'd see him, I'd say, hey, president, president of a company or whatever. He just had that. He just carried himself in a way that was like, I'm here, not in a conceited way, but just in a really confident way. But he would like melt. He would like blush and smile. He loved it when I called him the president. He knew that was like a little special little meaning. He knew exactly what I was meaning by that. And I know I didn't date him. He and I didn't date, but we became really good friends. But he loved that. He would blush and smile. And it was just a little way of making him feel good and kind of being flirtatious.
Yeah, and remember, men don't get a lot of compliments. It just doesn't naturally happen. So a woman can really separate herself on a dating scene by being willing to give a man a compliment and willing to take some initiative in that way. I think to me, that's a good separator on a dating scene.
And complimenting him on what he's providing for you. If he's taking you to a nice place or he's planned something, I think that's going to feel really good too.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. I love that one. Hey, what's next? I lost track. Are we on 4?
We are on number 4.
Okay.
And so here's a key. Get along well with others. Right? And so what I mean by that is men of a certain stature, of a certain value, masculine men, the woman they want beside them, they want them to be able to represent them well in public. They want them to be able to get along and play well with others. They don't want the drama queen, right? The one who makes it hard when you go to the business meeting or the Christmas party, or we can't go around in groups of friends because you're always getting into it with someone, right? So getting along well with others is a nice feminine approach, because when you seek your femininity and you're kind and you're nice, then you don't have a lot of room for conflict all the time, right? So for me and for a lot of men, getting along well with others, I've actually seen men not date women that they were extremely attracted to because they couldn't get along with anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my husband sometimes refers to those individuals as people who can't work or play well with others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a real thing. And that's a real thing, especially when you're out amongst other people socially or professionally or things like that. You want to be with someone who you know is going to be someone you can be proud of, or someone that you can feel comfortable with. They're not going to like sabotage your career or your social life, right?
Yes.
Or your relationships with your relatives.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a practical thing, but it's extremely important.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's number 4. What's number 5?
Number 5, speak softly.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is, there are a lot of women who desire to compete with men in conversations a lot of times. So they feel like they have to assert themselves and be loud, right, in order to prove a point. When truly, you can still be soft-spoken and have boundaries, and still be soft-spoken and still be assertive. But it's something about that softness and that kindness that draws men in, okay? Versus the boisterousness. It kind of is like, who's that? You know what I mean? So it becomes like a competition when really what you want is the man to lean in and hear you talk, okay?
Yeah, you don't necessarily want to be one of the guys and in the way that you speak. And I do think it's soft. It's maybe that softness in tone. It's also, I believe, a warmth. Like when you described kindness, I think a really feminine quality is warmth. And that warmth can show up even in the way you speak, in the way you talk, in the way you address someone. I think it can be really powerful. I think a woman and her tone of voice, in addition to what she says, is really powerful and can be very attractive.
Absolutely. Even with women that are in relationships, how they speak to their man.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to get way more accomplished with that man when they speak in a softer, kinder tone. They could say the same exact thing in a very boisterous tone and is met with defensiveness, right? Because now it feels like a competition.
Absolutely.
So it's really important to just watch your tone.
Beautiful. Yeah, I like it. All right. Number 6, right?
Yes, number 6. So remember, we talked about receiving with grace and feminine energy being a receiving energy. Well, this one says, learn to listen. That's a part of receiving, okay? Is when a man speaks, most men, I will tell you, one of the top 3 things that men complain about is not feeling heard by their women, okay? And because of that, when you learn to listen genuinely and make what he's saying feel important, and you validate his feelings, you validate his perspectives, and you actually receive it without thinking about what it is you want to defend yourself with or what you want to debate with, it's an extremely attractive trait. When you can just sit there and say stuff like, tell me more about that, right? Oh, that's interesting. I want to hear more. Like things like that are very feminine and very interesting because men carry egos, right? They want to feel like they are being listened to. But what I found is a lot of times now it's women are competing in the conversations. Not saying that you can't have a voice. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is allow the man to finish his thoughts before you interrupt.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's so powerful. I think one of the biggest gifts we can give to each other as human beings, and especially in relationships, is our presence, and meaning our attention, our focus. So that we're really there with them when we're there with them. Mm-hmm. And how rare that's becoming in our world. It's really a power that it becomes a very powerful and rare commodity. And you made me think, Troy, a few years back, I did an interview with Alison Armstrong. I've done several with her. And of course, she has decades of experience in studying men, women, and relationships. And one of our interviews was specifically on how to listen to men. And one of the things that she said wasn't about how to talk to men, although that could be another topic. It was about how to listen to men. One of the things she said was, a lot of times as women, and I'm sure this happens with men too, but we're addressing women, we're so busy thinking about what we're going to say next. And we're so busy with our own thoughts that we aren't really listening. She also told me that giving a pause when a man is speaking to make sure there's a little bit of space after he finishes a sentence or whatever before you jump in, oftentimes will bring more. He'll actually have more to say. But a lot of times we jump in so fast that there's really not that opportunity. And I loved what you said. What else would you like to share with me? Or is there more there? Because then that gives a man really to have that opportunity to speak. And, women complain because men don't speak or they don't talk enough sometimes. And part of that could be sometimes we don't give them enough opportunity.
There you go.
All right. So that's a great one. What is number 7? Are we on 7?
Number 7. We're on number 7. And this is a key one. It's just be appreciative. Appreciation, in the spirit of appreciation, in the spirit of wanting to thank him for the things that he provides. That's another thing, is a lack of appreciation is a big complaint from a lot of men, is they feel like the things they do aren't acknowledged and they aren't appreciated, right? Because what ultimately ends up happening is there's this mindset of that's what he's supposed to do, okay? But that doesn't mean that he doesn't want to be acknowledged and appreciated. And it doesn't really take much. So a lot of what I've learned is a lot of women will say, well, I don't have time to stroke his ego all the time. And I'm like, make the time to. Because if you want repeat behavior of those actions, he needs to feel like you appreciate him, okay? So appreciation is extremely important. It's extremely feminine. And I think men love it. That's how you ever see people, you ever see two different types of women where like some can get anything they want out of a man and some can't get anything out of a man?
Yeah.
Right? A lot of it comes down to these feminine traits.
Yeah, well, and this one I think relates back to the first one that you started with, Troy, which is receive with grace. Because I believe that part of receiving with grace is not only having that openness and that willingness to receive what a man has to offer, but then acknowledging and appreciating what he brings to the table. Because I believe, first of all, yes, you're going to get more of that. The reinforced behavior will be is more likely to be repeated. But also, I think as women, we don't fully always understand how meaningful and significant that is to a man, to feel appreciated, to be acknowledged, to know that what he provides, and I'm not just talking about providing from a monetary standpoint, his presence, his advice, his wisdom, his support, all of the things that a man can provide to a woman are acknowledged and appreciated. I don't know that we as women can fully, or you typically do fully understand how powerful that can be.
Yeah, it makes him feel like he's doing a good job. And that's what ultimately men want to feel like. Men want to make women happy. Like women that we care about, we want to make them happy. And so we want to know, did I do a good job? And a lot of times the only way to know that is by hearing from her that she acknowledges and she appreciates it, right? Otherwise, men grow resentful of doing things. They're like, I don't know if I'm doing a good job, and she doesn't acknowledge it, so she doesn't care anyway. So yeah, so it's a small thing, but it's huge for men.
Well, and I've even as you know, because you've been on some of my man panels, Troy, I've even had men say, just to see you smile, to see your face light up, and to see that we've pleased you, that we've made you happy. That's, more the nonverbal communication. But so if you are pleased, it would be good to notify your face, right? First of all. And second of all, then acknowledging and appreciation with words also is another powerful way to do that. And it's also just part of that warmth and that kindness that we've talked about in these other traits, not taking someone for granted. Women don't want to be taken for granted either. So we can understand why that would be an important thing.
Absolutely. These 7 things they probably seem really small and basic. But what I will tell you is if you can master them as a woman, you can have men eating out of the palm of your hand because it is your superpower. Femininity is women's superpower. And I don't love the fact that in today's society, it's almost deemed as weakness when really it's a superpower. So I would encourage women to tap back into it. And I've learned that women tend to be happier when they can be in their feminine space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really true. I think even if a woman is used to, out of necessity or by choice, having to be really self-sufficient and really independent and kind of doing it on her own and rocking it out in the world, wow, it's nice sometimes not to have to. And I've had so many women share over the years, wow, it's so nice to be able to be able to rely on someone. And if you want someone to rely on and you want someone to stay around, it's good to know what's going to work and help facilitate and support a long-term relationship. I mean, these are skills not just for dating, but also even when you're in a relationship or even when you're in a marriage. So important.
Absolutely. You start practicing it in your singleness, right? In your dating experiences. And then it kind of becomes a part of who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, I love what we talk about, Troy. I think these are really powerful. And maybe some seem basic or maybe some seem simple, but I also think there's kind of a real art. There's really kind of an art and a science in knowing how to really navigate the world of relationships. And I think the more we know about these things, the more successful we can be. And a lot of these things can work in our interactions with men, not necessarily the flirting part, but a lot of these things can work in our interactions with other men in our lives, in our professional lives, our family relationships, all kinds of things.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And you got to also think about most women's model was their mother.
Right.
Okay. And so if your mother didn't carry these types of things with her, then you may not carry those types of things either. And there may be this narrative that's painted in your mind that says, I have to be this way in order to get ahead in life. And a lot of times those are a lot more masculine type traits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so these basic things, if anybody gets something out of this, I just want people to be triggered in their mind that says, could I do things different in these areas? That's it.
Right. Right. Exactly. Or could I just polish or refine these a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Have fun
Absolutely.
doing it. That's another thing that I think I just throw in here is that sometimes, especially for women that are maybe a little more mature or who have been out there in the dating world for a long time, there can start to be like a heaviness of energy around love, dating, and relationships. And another thing that I think kind of goes along with the flirting and the fun is making it fun. Like I love to ask myself the question sometimes, what can I do to make this more fun? Because when we have that lightness of energy, it's inviting to a man to engage.
I ask a lot of my dating clients, would you call yourself easy to date? And a lot of times they didn't realize that you start asking about traits and behaviors and actions, and they've made it hard for them to date, they've made it hard to be dateable, right? Because they believe that someone has to earn all of these things from them. And I'm like, you're shooting yourself in the foot because the dating market is crowded, and you have to be willing to look and see what does your target market desire, which is men.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the things that I just shared aren't things. It isn't information that I received from women. I received it from what men desire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I just wanted to point out, just for fun, I love Troy's man cave sign above his head. I think Troy's man cave. When was it established? 2020. My cave, my rules.
My cave, my rules.
I just think that's a nice thing. Also, it's nice when you're in a relationship, when you're in a marriage, to also give a man some space, both literally and figuratively.
Space is extremely important. And a lot of times women take space as rejection, when really it's recuperation. For a lot of it, it's where we recoup. It's, sometimes we need to be in the space of nothingness. And women tend to hate when we're in that space. They're like, how dare you be in a space of nothingness? They're like, what are you thinking about? We're like, nothing. And they're like, there's no way. I'm like, no, literally, there's nothing there. So that's what man cave gives us the strength to do, is to be in that space of nothingness.
Yeah, to kind of recharge, to go out there to do battle in the world again, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'd be there for you. I mean, I love men, and I have found studying men to be very fascinating and doing the man panels and everything like that. And I believe a good man will literally like move a mountain for a woman. He'll go to great lengths. When I say move a mountain, that's what I mean. He'll go to great lengths to please a woman when he's getting that reward and that feedback from her, and when he really loves her. And it's really one of the wonderful things about men is how much they do and how much they show their love through the things that they do.
Absolutely. I would totally agree with you. And so, pay attention to a man's actions, and he'll tell you exactly how he feels about you.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, Troy, as always, this has been so much fun. I've loved these 7 things. Thank you so much for sharing them. And I know you also have a gift for our audience, and I want to give you an opportunity to share about that too.
Yes, I have a free ebook that they can get by going to our website, exclusivethoughts.com. It's XKLUSIVE thoughts.com. If you sign up for the email list, then you should be able to get you a copy sent straight to your email from me. And it is called Teach Me How to Love, A Man's Journey Toward and Through Marriage.
Yeah, and everybody, the link will be right here below. I think it's great, Troy, that you've actually written a book on that and shared that, because I think that's something that'll be really valuable insights for a lot of women out there.
Yeah, get to the journey that a man goes through when he's deciding on when to marry and who to marry.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Troy. And I want to give you a chance if you have any last thoughts or a little pep talk or whatever you might want to share before we wrap up today.
Yes. The last thing I would say is seek to understand. Seek to understand what it is that the man that you desires. Okay? That way you can position yourself to be the type of person or the type of woman that he needs, and not just what you need, because it goes both ways. So that's what my parting words would be, is seek to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that one. It's, reminds me of the 7 habits: seek first to understand and then to be understood.
Yes, absolutely.
And such a powerful principle to live by. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's so valuable to hear the male perspective, and really appreciate what you've shared, Troy. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for having me.